All right, let's get it. Today, I want to talk about the disciples were black. And I have biblical proof to support this claim. I want to start today in the book of Genesis, chapter 50. I'm going to read verses 7 through 14. And it reads, "And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all the house of Joseph, and his brethren, and his father's house. Only their little ones, and their flocks, and their herds, they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan. And there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, that's important, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Wherefore, the name of it was called Abel Mitzrayim, which is beyond Jordan. And his sons did unto him according as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite, before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father." The Canaanites identified these Israelites as Egyptians. More biblical proof that the Israelites were black, because we've already established in previous videos that the ancient Egyptians were black. So if they're interchangeable, if they're being confused for one another, then they had to look alike. They had to look similar. Now, I want to take a look at the Strong's Concordance. And again, this is from BibleHub.com. And I want to focus on just this first part that's on the screen. Canaanite. And you see it says Strong's Hebrew 3669. And what is their breakdown of Canaanite? And this is important. I want you to remember this. descendant of inhabitant of Canaan. Descendant or inhabitant of Canaan. A merchant trader. That is the definition of Canaanite. Genesis 50:11. Like I said, keep that in mind. That's important. I'll come back to that later. Next, I'm going to read from the book of Acts, chapter 8, and I really only wanted to read 27, but I think I'm going to read basically this whole passage here, so I'm going to read the highlighted area. And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise, and go toward the south unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem into Gaza, which is desert. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem for to worship, was returning and sitting in his chariot, reading Isaiah the prophet. I know it doesn't say reading, but it should. Reading Isaiah the prophet. So basically, this Ethiopian eunuch, who was a servant of Candace, queen of Ethiopia, was sitting in his chariot reading from the book of Isaiah. He was reading the scripture. Anybody ever heard of the Ethiopian Jews? Just saying. Moving on. Then the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot. And Philip ran thither to him, and heard him read the prophet Isaiah, and said, Understandest thou what thou readest? And he said, How can I, except some man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. And if you continue to read on, you'll see that this eunuch eventually gets baptized by Philip. But does anyone else find it interesting that this Ethiopian is reading the scriptures? Does anyone else find it interesting that Philip actually baptizes this? And Philip was a disciple, by the way. I mean, let's just establish that Philip is one of the disciples, and this is after the crucifixion. So, anyone else find it interesting that Philip is going back south? Gaza is right on the border of Egypt. And he catches these Ethiopians who were on their way to worship. But, you know, you may be saying, hey, that doesn't prove anything, right? That doesn't prove that the disciples were black. That just says that they ran into an Ethiopian. Okay, all right. All right, cool. Cool. I understand. So, Now I'm going to read from the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 1. Now, there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger. Stop. Now these are some of Paul's boys who are called prophets. But let's just break down this Simeon that was called Niger. So now we're looking at the Strongs, and this is the Greek Strongs because there's also like the Hebrew. And it reads, Niger, a proper name of Latin origin, black. Interesting. Niger, a Christian. So they just called him black, right? I mean, that's what his name means, right? Or are they trying to say that he's from Niger, which is in Africa? Either or, it kind of says that he's a black man, right? 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 Right. And I know you probably like, man, look, this still does not prove that the disciples were black. Okay. All right. All right. I understand. I'm getting there. I'm working towards it. So now I'm going to read from the book of Mark, chapter 3, and I'm going to read this entire highlighted portion. Well, not the entire portion. I'll read the highlighted portion. Let's put it like that. And he goeth up into a mountain, and calleth unto him whom he would, and they came unto him. And he ordained 12, that they should be with him, and that he might send them forth to preach, and to have power to heal sickness, and to cast out devils. And Simon he surnamed Peter, and James the son of Zebedee, and John the brother of James, and he surnamed them Boanerges, something like that, which is the son of thunder, and Andrew and Philip, who we were just discussing, and Bartholomew and Matthew and Thomas and James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddeus, and Simon the Canaanite. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Didn't we already establish in previous videos that Canaan was a black land? I mean, because Canaan is a descendant of Ham. So, and I'm not saying that Simon is a Canaanite, as in he's from the lineage of Ham. I'm saying Simon, and I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty certain that all of these guys were Israelites. All of the disciples were Israelites. But I'm thinking it's saying Simon the Canaanite as in saying like Jay-Z the New Yorker, right? I mean, it's just where he lived. That's how I'm thinking about it. You know, like Idris Elba is a Brit, even though he's a black man, right? I mean, that's sort of how I'm taking it, right? Is that that's just where he lived, that's where he was from. But with that being said, he was living amongst them at that time, which says to me that he was indeed a black man. Now, if you're listening to this video, you probably already think that all of the disciples were black. Yes, that's what I also believe. I also believe all the Israelites were black. But for those who still need some convincing, there it is. But let's take a look at the Strongs. Let's have a little bit of fun here. See, because like on the last video, I caught them trying to be slick when they changed the bushy hair to wavy. Looks like I caught them again, right? And now this is the Greek. This is the Strong's Greek interpretation. See, the other interpretation was the Hebrew interpretation. And as you can see, they've changed Canaanite to zealot. Simon the Zealot. That's not what it says, folks. It says Simon the Canaanite. And this is my issue with all of these NIT translations, the New English Translation, you know, all of these American Standard Version, the English Standard Version, all of these different versions of the Bible. This is my issue with them because they get in there and they change things and it changes the entire meaning of the passage. Also, I believe it says in Genesis, do not change my words, do not add or take away. And I'm paraphrasing, but it says something like that. Do not add or take away to my words. These are the instructions that was given to Moses. So by making these subtle changes that they'll tell you they're making it uh, easier to understand. By making these subtle changes, one or two words could change the entire meaning of the passage. So anyway, let's get back into their breakdown here. So they have their first definition, a Canaanite. Okay, cool, simple enough. That part we can agree on. But then it has of Chaldee origin. Huh? Does that make any sense? If it was a person of Chaldee origin, wouldn't they be classified as a Chaldean? Just a thought. But anyway, moving on. It has zealous in there. Then it has Canaanites. And then it has an epithet. And I'm taking that to read as calling someone a religious zealot, being the epithet. But if these guys were hanging out with Jesus, Yeshua, if they were his homeboys, weren't they all probably zealots? I mean, weren't they all probably like really being sticklers for the law and the commandments and all things included? I mean, they're walking around with the Most High. So aren't they all zealots? I mean, wouldn't they all be zealots at that point? I mean, wouldn't it kind of be required? Just something to think about. So this is the famous Da Vinci Last Supper painting that I know most of us have seen. Some of our parents probably had this hanging in their house at some point. Based on the information that's just been presented, is this accurate? I'm just saying. But this is what's been accepted by the world. Which one of these guys would be Simon the Canaanite? Somebody point him out. I can't tell. I can't tell. So I'm gonna leave it there for now. If you like the way I think, slide over to Patreon. Check out some of my original short stories. It's only $1.50 per download. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss out on our future videos. And like always, I thank you for your time. Peace.